Hi, this is Tom and welcome to this week's Thrive in 5. This week I want to talk to you a little bit about the dark side of obligation. And the dark side of obligation to me is when you get yourself into situations where you're obligated to something and there's those things that come up in your life that somehow you had to do because pressure was placed on you, or you felt this sense of you should be doing something. And obligation is, that's often what it means. It means a duty that you're required to, an imperative, something that feels like it's imperative to you. It's a whole bunch of shoulds that might show up in your life. And these obligations are things that kind of hover over you. And the problem with obligations is they often, when they just sit on their own by themselves, can create what is often referred to as a mess. And the mess shows up because when you feel an obligation to something, you tend to not accomplish it, you tend to avoid it, you tend to give it no priority in your life. Because of this, it has no commitment attached to it. So when you have an obligation without any commitment attached to it, you find yourself in this muck and mess that drives avoidance, that drives lack of progress towards accomplishing it. And that's not fun to be around. So one of the things that I have to really actually thank Dan Sullivan for, and Dan Sullivan is the guy who runs Strategic Coach. Dan Sullivan talks about this line: a obligation without commitment equals a mess. But what for me is really important in that whole sequence is, what do you do about it? Because it's easy to find ourselves in the mess. The question is, how do you get out of the mess? Well, there's two ways I think that you can kind of deal with the mess. The first one is, and remember, it's always this connection between the obligations you have and the commitment. So commitment's being dedicated, supportive, you actually want to do it, you're committed to making it happen. Obligations are duties, imperatives, the shoulds in your life. And so if you want to get out of messes as it relates to your obligations, the first thing that you have to consider is the obligation something you should have taken on in the first place? And so one of the things you have to do is potentially reduce your obligations such that you learn to say no. And this is often an incredibly hard thing to do, because obligations often come with pressures from other people, from outsiders, from family, from expectations, and obligations are not appropriate to go forward without commitment. So one way to deal with that and get yourself out of mess is to reduce the obligations you have and to learn to say no more effectively. Now, sometimes there's no possible way to get out of the obligation, and if that's the case, the way to reduce the mess is to make, instead of this a minus, make this a plus, and actually learn to increase your commitment to said obligation. So the higher you can increase your commitment to an obligation, the more likely you are to stay out of the messiness, the avoidance, the lack of priority, the lack of accomplishment related to the obligation. And to me, what I've discovered is the best way to increase your commitment is to be sold on whatever this is, and to sell yourself on that. And so the best way to sell something to yourself is to consider, well, what are the emotional benefits of this? What are the long-term benefits of completing this obligation? What's in it for the other people that are involved? What's in it for your business? What's in it for you? What's the value to be derived? All of those aspects really are all a part of selling something. And one of the things I appreciate about Dan Sullivan's whole conversation about an obligation minus commitment equals a mess is the optimal way to get yourself to a place of commitment is you got to be sold on something. You got to be sold on these obligations. So if you find yourself in the dark side of an obligation, feeling all of the frustration that comes with that, I want to encourage you to either increase your commitment or get out of the obligation. I hope that helps. We'll talk to you soon.